Hello? Anybody in here? I know you're in here. Okay, here's our little animation you just saw. Got Mario running into the haunted prop room and discovering his worst fears. This really started out as an experiment just to get him to hold the lantern better, and a way for him to pick it up and for the lantern to kind of move around using some physics there. And I just kind of wanted to make that as good as I can. It's not perfect by any means, but closer. So let's talk about the scene in general and then how to set up the lantern for that type of motion. Well, the first thing I needed to do was to find a lantern, which I've already started searching here, over at the old Google warehouse. It's now Trimble 3D warehouse. Found a lovely oil lantern by Captain Velo. It's a little large, it's about a megabyte, but it was a lovely lantern. So I downloaded that lantern, and then I brought it into SketchUp. Okay, here is that lantern in SketchUp now, and we want to edit. Ideally, I want to make this handle a separate part of the lantern so it will move independently and freely. Also notice this is a little bit going to be in the way of the hand, so I want to edit and maybe remove this little circular object here. Now if we click on the object, the lantern, it's pretty much sealed up, so we're going to right click and I'm going to explode it, and now hopefully we can work on it. Okay, and now we can select individual pieces and parts. And by dragging whatever, you might be able to see that changes to a little blue shade there. So let's grab this ring on top and just select that and see what happens. And notice it's just selected. Now if we hit the delete key, it's gone. I'm not going to worry about the little opening of the polygon there. Next I want to select this. You'll notice that it turns with a dotted blue dot grid, and signifying that we have selected that part of the object. I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to say select bounding edges, and now notice the edges, and now I'm going to right click again and say make a group, and now it is separated. It's a separate object still connected with the lantern. So I think that's pretty much what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and save it with a new name or a different name, and we'll bring it over into 3D Exchange. Okay, let's load the lantern that we just worked on. SketchUp. It comes in to 3D Exchange. It says it's got too many polygons. I'm not going to worry about it. For my scene, that's not going to be a problem. So I'm just going to go ahead and, glad it gave me that info, but I'm not going to worry about it. One thing you might want to do is to smooth out the polygons. I'm going to select everything. Going to hit auto smooth. It's going to take it a while. Okay, you can see that the lamp is now very smooth. Now let's go back and select the handle for the lamp. I'm going to select these two objects here, and then I'm going to move up and say make sub prop, and so now the handle is going to be a separate object attached to the lantern, and so now we can send that over into iClone. Now be aware, when you're in 3D Exchange, you can save some of the poly count by turning off the backs of the polys. It'll give you another step that you'll probably need to do in iClone to make sure these other polys do show up correctly, but you could save some on your poly count on your objects if you do that step. I'm going to save some time and not worry with it, but be aware you can do that. Okay, here's our lamp. You may not recognize it. I've resurfaced it, given it some nice textures. Also, I've added a particle, little flame glowing inside there, like so, which I think will help a little bit. It's a little tricky to use that object when the lamp's moving around, but if you play with it, I think you'll be able to get the handle of it pretty good. But anyway, that's basically the lamp. Now if you look, you'll see we've got object attached to it. We've got a handle, got the lantern itself, calling it lantern mod. The handle, we've got our flame, which we don't necessarily need. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to add an infinite plane here from the physics tools, physics props there, because I'm going to start working with some physics. Okay, let's go ahead and figure out what we're going to do about this physics. Get this thing to react correctly physics-wise. Let's go ahead and look at the lantern. Turn on the physics for it, and let's make it dynamic, and let's just leave it box for now. And let's look at the handle. Once again, let's activate physics, make it dynamic. Box will be okay at this point in time as far as I can tell. And there we go. And that's running the physics, and it acts a little strange, but definitely doing something. Let's look at fixing the pivot point for the handle, for one thing. That pivot needs to be lined up with the handle itself, so let's turn on edit pivot, and let's bring the y-axis, they call it, and let's drag it out here and so we get a better view. See where it is. It needs to be right along the axis of that handle where it would join with the lantern, and that looks pretty close, so we can leave it there, but I'll shove it over here in the middle, and that's that. Probably need to adjust the pivot of the lantern itself, so let's look at it. It's down here at the bottom, so let's once again bring up edit pivot. Let's zoom in here and make sure that it's also in alignment with that handle as well. I think that'll help. And it's a little off on that edge, so get her close. You can probably tweak it even better, but I think that'll be fine for now. I'll just shove it in there for now. And okay, and there we go. Okay, still acting a little strange, so what we want to do, I'm thinking, is to join the link the lantern, set up a constraint to the handle. So let's open up constraint, and the type of constraint I think we're going to want is a hinge, so we'll try hinge, and let's just do 30 here and 10 here. That can certainly be tweaked. Pick the target, and I'm going to go over here to the menu and pick handle as my target. And so now that's acting actually kind of right. Spinning around there. It's acting, of course, strange otherwise, but I think that's close to what we're going to want. So that sounds, looks pretty good. Okay, we got the basics in place. One thing I discovered that's probably going to make this work really good with a human avatar interaction would be to add another prop, and I'm just going to add a dummy, just a simple cube, and let me make sure it's right here. Let's see, there it is up there. Okay, it's just a cube, and I'm going to then take the handle and do a constrain from the handle to this cube, which is a dummy, which can be turned on and off. And let's see how that goes to help us. Let me bring this down here now, and let's take the handle and open up the physics for it, and open up constraint. And let's do another hinge for now. Pick a target. Dummy. Let's give it once again just arbitrary numbers right now. I'm just typing in. And now let's turn this off. Let's select everything. The dummy, the handle, the lantern. And then move everything up off the ground so the ground won't be interacting. And okay, there we go. It didn't quite link well, so let's experiment and see what we did wrong there. Okay, now let's think about changing the pivot point once again. Take the handle and its pivot point, edit, and let's move it up. And now the dummy object is holding the handle where a person's hand might be holding it. Now for a test, let's move our dummy and see what happens. There we go. And that's moving pretty much like I want it to move. And you can make some adjustments with the friction. I, for some reason, didn't have good luck adjusting the friction for the lantern. I had better luck using the dampening adjustment, and I'm sure I'm doing something wrong, but I could not get the friction mass elasticity to give me a movement of the lantern. It would just keep moving constantly when it stopped, and by adjusting dampening, it got it to where the lantern would move, gradually swing, and then come to a rest. I couldn't get it to do it with friction, so I'm sure I'm doing something wrong. So hopefully someone can correct me. But this is kind of the rig, very much like the rig I used for a Mario to hold in the room. So now let's figure out how we can get Mario to grab the lamp and look around the room. Okay, I've got it basically lined up like I wanted things to happen. Mario's going to walk in. The lantern is on this box. He's going to pick it up and then look around. So I've got him lined up pretty much where I want him. Now there's probably a lot of ways you can do this sequence and animate it. I don't use the AML templates that much, but I thought I'd try one. So here is the one called Grab It Mid, and I'm going to move it over here by the object that I want to grab. And from what I can tell, it's got a little handle here, and I'm going to rotate this around to where it's pretty much lined up with my red dummy. And let's just see if we can utilize this animation in some way to get close to what we're going to do. So typically what you do, I think, is you select your character, and then you click on the AML, and then you say Operate, pick Mid. Okay, there we go. And that's the basis of what we've got to work with. Now let's just double check and see where he got it from, and he's still a little bit far away. So I'm going to tweak that maybe just a little bit. So we'll play that, and as you can see, he's a little far away from where we really want him to grab things. So since we haven't done anything yet, we can select our objects. I'm going to select everything here and the box, and I'm going to move them where I want them to be. So roughly there is where I want it, and let's tweak it around a bit. So pretty close right there, and I'm going to right click and say remove all animation because I don't want that animating. But now he gets a little bit closer. So now let's think about, let's turn off our dummies here. Let's think about modifying Mario's animation. And let's get to the point where we would be grabbing it, which is right about there. I'm going to go in and click on Mario, open up the animation, motion layer here. Turn off my bones, not interested in that at this point. Let's also bring up the animation timeline, and let's move things around so you can get an idea. Turn off. Let's see. Applying Mario. There we go. Just Mario. Motion layer. And let's bring back animation layer right here. And let's move him around here so we can kind of see what's going on. And now I'm going to lower his body. Well, first off, I'm going to add a keyframe. Yes, I want to, let me delete that for a minute. I'm going to add a keyframe right about here. So that represents pure animation, no alterations have been made. And right here we're going to start alterations. So I'm going to have him duck down, bend his waist a little bit, maybe lean over a little bit, like so. Adjust the hand, like so. So tweak these things to get it close to what you want to do. You can always tweak them a little bit more later, but this will be close to what you want. Okay, brings it, and we're going to have him bring it up to a little bit different position. Like so. Okay, we'll smooth these keyframes out by selecting them all, and you can't see it here, but I'm going to select ease in, ease out, and ease in, ease out. Okay, so that's pretty close. Okay, so now we can see that he moves up pretty good. Picks up the lamp. So of course I guess we're going to want to add a little more animation to Mario. So let's go over here and think about adding a motion puppet action. Now you could pick various ones. The key will be, this look around might work pretty good. The key will be sure to mask off the arm. You don't want it necessarily animating. And don't worry about the fact that the lamp is kind of messed up because the physics haven't run their course properly. So let's do that. Let's slow him down a little bit. Don't want to exaggerate the moves too much because that can lead to some other issues. So we will slow the motion down. So let's roll some of that. And let's see how that goes. You will probably need to smooth out the animation no matter what you do, because it will probably be a little abrupt for the simulation. Okay, yeah, he moves a little abruptly there. So this is where it's nice to utilize the smoothing bar. Smooth out the introduction to the animation. Also, you might select the animations, and can't see it, but I am selecting ease in, ease out, and so now it'll ease in, ease out of the animations a little smoother. And also, of course, as I said, the keyframes, we might want to ease in, ease out, smooth them out as well, which I just did off camera. Okay. It gets a little funky there. You probably want to smooth that out some more. Play with your animations. Slow them down. Speed them up. A lot of things will help. But it'll take some tweaking. No doubt about it. But we've got somewhat realistic motion going on here. And of course then we'll want to go in and animate Mario's expressions. His face, head turning, maybe a little more. We can keep doing that, and that will work just fine. And here's the basic scene. You can see the lights. I've turned them on so you can see where they are. I've attached a light, of course, to the lantern. which will follow as he moves it around. I put a light in the back hall. Those are simply point lights. They're not casting shadows. I've got my shadows being created by a light up here toward the ceiling, pointed back to the door, and then I have another light outside the hall that I use to cast a light in through the doorway to cause a shadow there. So let me open it up. There we go. I turned it off at some point, but now you can see there is a light through the doorway, and turned on a work light so you can see a little bit more what's going on, but we can turn that off. So now we have the full effect of the lighting contrast. I've also put a little bit of a blue glow back here on this back wall. Got a light here glowing in the back. Puts a little light in that scene. We'll step through it with the camera switch with the lights turned on. You can see the lights turned on here and what they're doing, and the cuts, the various cuts. I like this cut on the mannequin here. It's kind of a neat shot. And then you can see the glow from the lantern, the backlight here, which gives him some light. The blue glow in the background, the door slam. That's the scene and how I kind of put it together, and I hope you got a kick out of it. Thanks for watching.